What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my comprehensive Forma building guide for this month's Hall of Forms featuring the Shadows of Valentia units. We're going to be having 11 new skills added to the pool up to the legendary Caeda banner. So let us begin with Python. Even though he's a 3-star 4-star unit, he's not a bad option to use your Forma Soul on if you're trying to plus and merge him, because in the long run it can save you some fodder and resources which maybe you could use on some other unit, and you can simply get Python with fully built premium kit from this Hall of Forms. We have seen a couple of Gen 3 weapon refines, and Python is also a Gen 3 unit, so he's going to be due for a weapon refine, and this is a pretty good opportunity for a big Python fan to get the premium skills on him. And using your Forma Soul on him is mostly going to be justified if you're trying to go all the way and plus and merge him and spend dragon flowers on him and make the full use out of the premium skills. He can be compared to the other two Green Bow Cavaliers in the free-to-play pool in Sedgar and Wrath. So Sedgar is a lot more recent unit, so he takes a lot less dragon flowers. He also has more speed and attack than Python at the cost of having less defense. And this is pretty much the niche of Python, having that higher defense than most of these Bow Cavaliers and still having workable offenses that you can build up. He's not going to be having as much attack as a lot of the Bow Cavaliers. He even has less attack than Sedgar here. But still, overall, Python is not a bad merge project if you want to build up a Green Bow Cavalier. And if you're trying to get the premium skills on him and commit to the Forma Soul, then here are some of the options that you've got. So you can go with Springy Bow Plus or Spendthrift Bow as his weapon. Springy Bow is a really rare and premium bow from Spring Inigo, which is super hard to get. And unlike a lot of the bows which gives you attack and defense buffs, this bow actually gives you attack and speed buff and also neutralizes any kind of debuffs on your attack and speed. So it's kind of unique in that regard if you're trying to speed stack on him. But then again, Spendthrift Bow is also really good for that -7 attack debuff that you can do on the enemy, and it makes use of the bulk that Python has got compared to a lot of the other Bow Cavaliers. So both of these are really good options. It really depends if you're trying to stack up the speed or just have a better bulk with Spendthrift Bow. But keep in mind that Spendthrift Bow does have that special penalty, so it's going to be a bit annoying if you're trying to use Deadeye, a 3-turn special with it. Speaking of Deadeye, it's the premium special for any kind of archer. You should definitely be trying to get that if you're trying to get the Forma Soul. And then Attack Speed Catch 4 is the premium slot A skill which gives you the most offenses and also has good synergy with the Menace skills which you can run in a slot C. If you're trying to get a Forma Python, then Far Trace skill is pretty much the best premium option that you've got. We have got two options in Attack Defense Far Trace and Attack Speed Far Trace. There's no Speed Defense Far Trace yet, which is a bit annoying. I personally prefer the Attack Defense Far Trace so that he can do a bit more damage and also be a bit more bulky. And if you're not able to get the Trace skills, if you're getting unlucky, then I guess the Lull skills are pretty much the next best option. And finally, in the slots you can run Attack Speed Menace or Attack Defense Menace. Some premium smoke skills like Fatal Smoke and Pulse Smoke are also good options, but the Menace skills can also go really well with some of the weapons like Plagent Bow or with slot A skills like the Cat skills. Plagent Bow is also an option for his weapon, which can give him more bulk and also improve his damage output. And it's a solo weapon which is rather easy to use on a Cavalier who has got higher mobility. And then you can combo it up with Attack Defense Menace, which does have perfect synergy with the effect of Plagent Bow. It does have the solo condition, but at least it does not have the special penalty like the Spendthrift Bow, so it's a bit easier to use Deadeye with it. But still, again, Spendthrift Bow is always going to be a really solid option, so if you're able to get that, then that's still a really nice option to go with these kinds of offensive builds. And then if you're trying to invest into him really heavily by using Trait Fruits or by using the Floret, then Ninja Yumi Plus is a really good option because it can give you the Brave effect and also give you true damage. This weapon does not have the highest might, so Deadeye is not going to be doing that much damage, but still it's a really good premium special to get your hands on with a Forma Soul. And most of these skills are going to be unchanged here with Attack Speed Catch and Attack Defense Far Trace. The main option which you have to choose is between Attack Defense Menace or Attack Speed Menace. I do like Attack Defense Menace a bit more because my line of thinking is that against the bulkier opponents, he's going to be able to outspeed them and quad attack them. But against the faster opponents, the defense debuff can really help you kill them in the 2 brave hits. So that's why I kind of prefer Attack Defense Menace, but then again, if you want to quad attack more and want to stack up speed more, then Attack Speed Menace is also an option. And then finally, Python is actually a pretty good unit to be used in Ether 8's defense when it comes to the free-to-play units in general. So because of being a Bow Cavalier, he has got a huge threat range, and he also has the bulk to survive units like Brave Hector, especially with the higher defense that he has got and his green color, which can give him the advantage. But unfortunately, nowadays we have seen Ascended Firearm with Null Counter Disrupt, who can be really annoying for Python, and she can also stack some ridiculous amount of speed. But still, if you want to use him in Ether 8's defense, then this build is for you. Fire Sweep Bow can be a good option, even though Ascended Firearm is going to be annoying. It's still a premium option at the end of the day, so you can get that. And after you've got the Forma Soul, you can also try experimenting with Instant Bow from Sedgar on your Ether 8's defense team, which does have the impact effect built into it. So it can help you survive against those save armors, but still, getting the premium option with Fire Sweep Bow is the way to go. All of these other builds which I've shown you before did have attack speed catch, but for Ether 8's defense, attack speed catch can be a bit annoying, especially with Poison Strike if you're running that. And if some ally of yours attacks the enemy first and they lose some HP, then the trigger condition of attack speed catch can be a bit annoying. So attack speed push is mainly going to be here for Ether 8's defense so that it's consistent with the Poison Strike builds. As I've said, Fortrace skills are amazing on Python, but for Ether 8's defense, Canto skills and Trace skills are not the best. The Lull skills are a lot better as the enemies are going to be buffing themselves up. So you can run a Lull skill like Lull Speed Defense, and if you have the limited ephemera of New or Lethe, then I guess you can kill that for Python for the Lull Speed Defense and still get the Fortrace skill, which is the rare of the two. And with Ether 8's defense build, you should be running Fatal Smoke to shut down the Mystic Boost healing of the save armors, or even run Pulse Smoke, which can be helpful against the save armors who use Hardy Fighter. And Colorless Feud is also an option, I guess, to shut down the Elemines and Flame, which are going to be supporting the save tanks. Rinea is also a really popular merge project for many people, and just like Python, getting the premium skills on her can definitely help you save some resources. Not to mention, she's actually a Grail unit, so if you are at +9 merge, then the final copy can be essentially free for you and you can save like 500 Grails by using this Forma Soul. So Rinea, unfortunately, like the rest of the units from this batch, is not going to be eligible for a weapon refine. At least there is no precedence of that, and there's just so many things which can prevent her from getting a weapon refine. First of all, she's a seasonal unit with no preferred weapon, and she's also a dancer, so yeah, there are not really too many chances of her getting a refine in future, unfortunately, and she doesn't really have a unique dance compared to Peony, Plumeria, Mirabilis, Triandra, and of course Legendary Azura and Harmonic Azura, who all have preferred dances, so they can stand out as a dancer and provide even more stuff while refreshing a unit. Rinea is here with only the dance skill. So the Forma Rinea is mainly going to be for the people who are big fans of her, who are trying to +10 merge her and want to get some really good premium skills for her so that she can function much better in combat and also provide much better support. So let us take a look at some of the options she has got. This first build is going to be focusing on the support aspect, so that's why Love Bouquet Plus can be a really good option here, and it could be found on Bridal Juno in the Divine Code section as well. So if you're going on that path and if you're trying to spend your Divine Codes on that path, then maybe you could try and get some other premium weapon, but if not, then Love Bouquet Plus is definitely pretty nice for support because it does have Joint Drive attack and Joint Drive resistance built into it, and she does come with the dance skill by default whenever you'll redeem her as a Forma, so maybe you could try and get an expensive assist like a Rally Plus skill or Harsh Command just for fun if you're able to get that, because it's another premium option. And then for Slaughter, there are two main options for Rinea, I would say, which are going to be helping her just perform much better in combat. The first one is going to be Attack Speed Unity, and the second one is Attack Speed Ideal. Now the thing with Attack Speed Unity is that if you're going to be running Wings of Mercy on her, then it does have really good synergy with that skill, and mostly dancers are going to be staying near their allies, so it does work out pretty well. And then for Slot B, you can run Even Pulse Tie, and at max investment, Rinea can definitely run the HP Sacred Seal, or even run HP plus 5 or B Dual Infantry 4 Inner Slot A to boost her HP even more, and this Even Pulse Tie can definitely help you in something like Summoner Duels S, or maybe in Ether 8's offense, where you can pulse down a threat like Legendary Lilina, Legendary Sigurd, Oter, Regan, all of those units who can have pre-charged specials. So Even Pulse Tie ends up being a pretty nice option on a support build. But if you don't really like it, then I guess Null Follow-Up is going to be the other option which you can go for. And then finally for Slotzy, you want to go with a supportive option like a joint drive skill or cross per attack, which is also available in the Hall of Form skill pool. The next build is going to be a lot more oriented towards being offensive compared to the last build, which was focusing on being supportive. Now the thing with a lot of the blue tomes is that they are present in the Divine Code section or they're available on the Grail units. So you pretty much want to take a weapon that maybe you're not able to easily get, or maybe if you want to give that weapon to some other blue mage as well that you might be building up. In that case, you can try and get the weapon which is going to be the rarest for you. Overall, out of these weapons which I've listed, Flora Guide is pretty much the most rare one because summer loot is not that easily available compared to the other seasonal weapons. Drifting Grace and Love Bouquet are present in Divine Codes 3, and Pack Blooms and Spider Plush are available on the Grail units in Valentine Veronica and Halloween Sophia respectively. I kinda like Drifting Grace a bit more than Flora Guide to be honest, because both of these are offensive tomes at the end of the day, but Drifting Grace does have the healing at start of every turn, which does have good synergy with Attack Speed Ideal, which you can run in her slot A. And then Null Follow-Up ends up being a pretty nice slot B option, as you have seen on many of the units which have workable speed, and Rinea certainly is not that slow, so that's why she can use this skill. Attack Speed Menace is really good with the ideal skill, giving her the self buff, and can also help her be a lot more faster for this offensive build. Attack Resistance Menace is also an option. There are definitely some alternate options which I've mentioned before, and this is what the builds will look like with those alternate options. Rinea is a dancer at the end of the day, so her main job is going to be dancing most of the time, so don't stress too much if you're not able to get a certain skill here. And you can definitely, mix and match depending on which weapons and which slot A skills or slot B skill you can try to get. So honestly, it's really flexible depending on if you want to have a supportive Rinea or a more offensive one. Shadows of Valentia Catria is a sword flyer, and she has got Astra Blade as her preferred weapon. This provides her with +3 attack, and it also gives her true damage based on half of the difference between her attack stat and foe's defense. So as long as she has got more attack than foe's defense, she's able to get the true damage, which is really good. Here we have an example where Catria at Unmerge is going to be having 57 attack, and if a foe has got 31 defense, then she can deal 13 true damage per hit. So this weapon is basically there to provide her with true damage and improve her damage output. And she's also a Gen 3 unit just like Python, so she's going to be eligible for a weapon refine. We have definitely seen units like Legion who came in a Hall of Forms patch and then later on ended up getting a pretty nice weapon refine. So I hope that Catria can also pretty much follow that same path. You can also get her from the Divine Codes 2 section where she can provide you with that free merge, and that can be really nice if you do get her as a Forma. And if you're a big Catria fan, then you can definitely try and get the Forma Soul and hope that her weapon refine ends up being pretty good, because as of right now she just does the true damage with her weapon. She doesn't really get any kind of extra stats, so I'm hoping that her weapon refine can bring her up to the speed and also make her really strong. As of right now, she's still, gonna be giving good damage output, and she's gonna be a fun unit to play around. So again, if you're a big Catria fan, then this could be something that you could consider. So with the Astra Blade build, you always want to stack up attack on her and then try to have the skills which can reduce the defense of the opponent, because that's how her true damage is gonna be getting affected. So that's why we have got Attack Speed Catch, which provides you with the most attack, and then you can have Speed Defense Unit Trace and Speed Defense Rain in her slot B and slot C. So this does reduce the defense of the opponent, so that can be really helpful for getting even more true damage. Attack Defense Menace is also an option for her slot C, but I kind of prefer the Defense Rain skill because it is always going to be available as a consistent in-combat debuff, and you can always try and get the visible debuffs from some other allies or just buff up Catria's attack with the tactic skill or something like that. So you can pretty much get those visible buffs and visible debuffs with other ways, but the consistent defense debuff with the rain skill is a really nice thing for most of the flyers. So this is a pretty standard offensive build on her, and if you care about aesthetics and if you just want to get a premium sword on her, then Winter Rapier and Unbound Blade are pretty much going to be the two main options. A Near Trace skill is going to be a superb premium option, which can be a really helpful thing for a flyer, especially in their player phase, providing them with the counter utility. But if you want to commit entirely to the player phase, and if you want to use Flow Guard, then you can try and run this kind of build. Now the main purpose of this build is to use Flow Guard, which can provide her with the partial null follow-up, so that she can even double the opponents who have got follow-up negation and double attack them with her true damage. The guard effect from this skill can also help her not die to a lot of the special retaliation type of armor units or units in general. And Surge Sparrow is a really good player phase option which has good synergy with Flow Guard in that player phase aspect. It can also make sure that she's healthy by triggering a 2 cooldown special like Ruptured Sky or of course even Moonbow. And then finally, this build option is going to be for the biggest Catria fans who try to use her at high investment or max investment. So Distant Storm is actually available from this Hall of Forms onwards, and this pretty much helps her set up Vantage and also gives her extra attack, which does make for a really fun Vantage build. But unfortunately, Catria, even though she can have that true damage, she's going to be facing bulky opponents or opponents who have got damage reduction. So she's going to be having a hard time killing them because Catria's true damage is dependent on the foe's defense. So the higher the foe's defense, the lower her true damage is going to be, which is exactly the opposite of what you want to get the kills with Vantage. And damage reduction skills can also be really annoying thing for Catria because she doesn't really have a way of piercing through them, and a lot of the speedy units can just have more speed than her and get more damage reduction. So keep those things in mind if you're going to be going for this build. It's still going to be pretty fun seeing her high damage output and just kill things with Vantage and also set up with Distant Storm. I've only shown Vantage here just as a showcase option so that you can get an idea of what this build is about, but of course try and get a premium slot B skill which is harder to get just to optimize your Forma Soul. For a Vantage build, she actually wants to have attack defense range in my opinion, because the defense range skill of course helps as always, but the attack range skill can help her survive against the opponents which she's not going to be able to kill in a single attack. So the attack debuff can definitely be pretty nice for that survival. So that is the max investment Vantage build. It's definitely not as optimal as the first two builds, but still this is fun nonetheless if you're going to be using her at this kind of max investment. The final unit from this batch is going to be King Rudolf. He's a Lance Armor with Thorn Lance, which gives him -1 special cooldown, and it is going to be a visible attack check, and if he has got more visible attack than the enemy, then he can inflict -6 attack and defense debuff on them during the combat, and also stop their follow-up attacks. So this is going to be reminding you of Brave Hector's weapon, pre-refine, and that's pretty much what Rudolf was when he came out, but obviously now he is just utterly outclassed by Brave Hector, and then Ascended, Idun, and there are just so many better near save and far save armor units compared to him. But still, if you are a big fan of Rudolf, or you just want to have a near save unit, or if you do not have any kind of hardy fighter, far save armor unit for Summoner Duels are, then he could be an option that you could go for. And he's going to be in a similar situation to Halloween Mer, where she also came out in a Hall of Forms, and a lot of people invested in her with the save skills, and then later on she got a pretty good weapon refine. So hopefully Rudolf can follow the same path, because he should be getting a weapon refine early next year if the pattern follows up and they just keep up with the pace of the seasonal refines. So you just have to pray that they get a good weapon refine and your investment ages up to be a bit better, because that's pretty much what happened with Halloween Mer, and Rudolf could definitely end up getting a pretty nice weapon refine, because even now, like, this weapon is kind of decent because of the -1 special cooldown, and at least the fact that he can get the follow-up negation on the enemies. So yeah, if you don't have any kind of save armors, as always, then this could be a decent option to invest into so that you can save some fodder and hopefully save some orbs in the process and still end up getting a save armor unit. So the first build is for the near save usage. He can be a decent near save armor unit with that high defense and the follow-up negation that he has got. And the -1 special cooldown means that he can retaliate back with bonfires, but of course in the Hall of Forms you want to get a premium skill like Blue Flame, which does have good synergy with the save skills, and it's also really hard to get compared to bonfire. There are three main effects that you can try to focus on. The first one is guard effect, then it is debuff handling, and then finally we have foes buff neutralization. So you have to think which effects you really are going to be wanting on your Rudolf depending on the game mode that you're going to be using him on. For example, in my opinion, having the guard effect is extremely important on Rudolf if he's going to be getting doubled by null follow-up units or some faster units who have auto follow-up weapons. So Crafty Fighter and Sturdy Stance are the good options there. And then you can have some debuff handling, which could be useful in ether raids like Attack Defense Unity or Slick Fighter. And then the buff neutralization of the foe can also come into the play many times, because we do have units like Note who have the menace skills, then we have Harmonic Azura, Legendary Azura, even Legendary Sigurd can give the attack buff to all of his teammates. So neutralizing opponents' buffs can be a really good thing for getting more bulk. So Close Defense 4 and the newly added Wily Fighter are also the options. Here I've shown the Attack Defense Unity and Crafty Fighter build. Attack Defense Unity is really great for Ether Raid's offense, and Crafty Fighter does provide you with the auto follow-up and also with the guard effect. That's another thing. Rudolf does not have an auto follow-up in his weapon like Brave Hector, so he needs to run skills like Slick Fighter, Crafty Fighter, Wily Fighter that can give him some kind of auto follow-up and hopefully another effect. And then he can just run Steady Breath to trigger 3 cooldown specials. Here are some of the other builds from the combo options which I listed before. Like the first one is using Sturdy Stance and Wily Fighter, and this is going to be missing the debuff neutralization. And then we have got Close Defense and Crafty Fighter. This is also missing the debuff neutralization. And then we have Sturdy Stance and Slick Fighter, which is missing the foes buff neutralization. So you have to choose between 2 out of 3 of the effects. You're going to be missing out on one of the effects. Having the guard effect is by far the most important thing in my opinion. So those are the options if you're trying to go for near save Rudolf. The next build is only for the people who want to use them for Summoner Duels R or Summoner Duels S. If you don't really care about those game modes, then this build isn't really for you. And I know it might seem a bit confusing, like what kind of build is this? Having Hardy Fighter, Aegis, and not even having Distant Counter in the slot A. Now I'll explain everything, the purpose of this build, because for the people who do not play Summoner Duels, this can definitely seem a bit goofy, and I don't really blame you for that, but Summoner Duels requires a specific type of units to succeed and also do better and just have an easier time, and this build is pretty much trying to achieve that. So for many people, if they haven't really invested into any kind of far save unit or Hardy Fighter's far save, then this build could be a really good option, because as you can see, even at Unmerged, Rudolf is able to survive a +10 Yuri, a +1 Lysithea, +10 E-Tree, and +1, Neural Dagger definitely does a lot of damage, but he at least survives to his credit. And then even +10 Ninja Korin is survivable, and the most important threat of Summoner Duels is going to be Duo Chrom. And a lot depends on how you deal with him, with how much success you're going to be having with your far save armor. It is really important to make sure that you can survive Duo Chrom, because he hits incredibly hard and he can also have Deadeye. So Hardy Fighter Aegis is pretty much going to be giving you the damage reduction with that defensive special, and that is why you can survive a lot of the stuff here. And then because of not running Distant Counter, you can actually try and have Distant Defense for max survival. And this can help you in the Duo Dagger matchup, which she does have the bonus doubler for, so having the skill which can ignore her buffs is a huge boon. And Distant Defense can also open up the usage of Deflect Magic. I'll show you the difference between Distant Defense matchups and Distant Stance matchup. And here he's just dying to a lot more units here and taking a lot more damage. Now again, people might say, why are you running a far save armor unit without Distant Counter? And I completely understand if you do not play Summoner Duels and you think that, because that is not wrong to think, but keep in mind that Summoner Duels has human opponents. You're not going to be facing AI, which is just going to attack into your units no matter what. Human opponents are going to be smart, so the way to discourage the engagement is to basically make sure that your far save armor unit can survive. And if you can survive, you can basically press your advantage state and be a lot more offensive and get into the range of the opponents safely. And that can pretty much help you get the zone points or the capture points. And being able to survive with your far save armor unit is a huge thing, because you can protect your main carries, your main offensive units from getting sniped by threats like Duo Chrom or Yuri. So that's why survival matters a lot, and that's why if you have seen some of the top players, they will also be using the same kind of build without Distant Counter. Or many of the units, even like Ascended Idun for example, with an unmerged unit, you have to give everything that you can to survive in those matchups. Like defense resistance far save matters a lot, because keep in mind that he has got the visible attack check, so getting the attack version of the save skill is not really going to be helping you trigger that effect of his weapon. Instead, you can just focus on trying to have more bulk. And then of course you can try and get the premium skills like the Rally Plus skill and Blue Flame, and I've just shown Swap and Aegis for the functionality just to showcase the idea of the build. And you have seen these buffs on Rudolf, and I'll explain why they are relevant. So having the visible attack buff is of course going to be helping with the triggering of his weapon, so that he can get the debuff on the opponent, survive better, and also have the follow-up negation. And this is going to be really important if you're trying to use Rudolf. The speed buff might seem a bit goofy, but it's actually there for a purpose, and the purpose is surviving Duo Chrom. Now as you can see here, Duo Chrom has an auto follow-up in his weapon, and he can also get +5 speed from his weapon. He can basically double Rudolf if he can outspeed him. And Hardy Fighter again does have that partial null follow-up, but because Duo Chrom is faster, he can just naturally double attack. Hardy Fighter does not stop the natural doubles, so this is the difference between buffing up the speed of your Rudolf and not doing it. So you can clearly see that, I mean, he's not the most insane far save unit here. He's more like a desperate pull if you don't have a hardy fighter or just want to have another hardy fighter far save in your barracks, because you definitely need a lot of factors to work with Rudolf. It's not going to be easy for sure. You know, Brave Hector and Ascended Idun are just better far save units, and the defense buff can definitely help you with the duo dagger matchup. If you already have good hardy fighter far save armor units, then you don't really need this. I'm personally going to be getting this Rudolf for my free-to-play account because I don't really care about the save skills too much for ether raids, because I mainly use the player phase strategies and I use Gale Force most of the time. But that all changed when Summoner Duels came out, and a hardy fighter far save armor unit can really help you in many matches because you're going to be facing these kinds of ranged threats a lot. So I don't really pull for Ascended Fjorm, and even if I did, like, Ascended Fjorm just dies to duo Chrom, so even that does not really matter too much. And not all of us have invested Brave Hectors or have pulled for Ascended Idun and have an extra hardy fighter lying around and also an extra far save. So going for this Rudolf basically saves you the fodder, and you know, it is going to be a low opportunity cost compared to a lot of the, you know, investment that will take you compared to what it will take for the hardy fighter far save armor unit. He's not the best for sure, he definitely gets outclassed, but still, like, he can survive some of the threats here, like plus 10 Yuri, who has got lethality, which can pretty much kill most of the armor units who are not running hardy fighter, and then he can also survive E-Trade, Ninja Korin, and duo Chrom, the most important matchup. Overall, this batch is going to be for the people who are fans of these units, especially the free-to-play mergeable options like Rinea and Python, and for the people who are trying to plus and merge them. And then I guess if you're really desperate for a hardy fighter far save in Rudolf. And next month is going to be Genealogy. So these are the speculation that I have. I definitely think that first batch is a lot possible because they love seasonal units. They also love 4-star you know, focus seasonal, so that's why Dancer Lachesis could be a thing. In colorless, they really don't have many options. It's Dancer Etlin and Jamke, and that's pretty much it. They can have them or just skip on colorless, and Fallen Julia could be an option because they have put Fallen units before, like Ashnard, Celica, and also you know, Ike, of course. So Fallen Julia is not that far-fetched. And then Dancer Eldigan could be a thing if this is the exact first batch, because they always try and have some kind of melee unit in the batch. It's not always going to be all range opponents. So that's why Dancer Eldigan is the seasonal unit, which they could put there. And then the second batch can also be possible because Dancer Quan is a seasonal unit who is a dancer. Then we have Lex as the melee unit. Jamke is the only other colorless unit. And then finally, they do have at least one magical unit in every batch. Sarvis could be someone who can be present, or maybe even Julius, I guess. And the third batch is kind of unlikely, even though Pirate Bridget might be possible because she's again a seasonal unit. And they could just have melee units in Ira and Travant. And the Idra could be a magical option as well, even though she does have a resplendent costume. So yeah, let me know which kind of units you would like to see in next month, and come back to this video next month to see how accurate I was and how much I missed. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this Forma guide. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps me tremendously, and if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as some of us who were expecting Valentine FEH in this batch. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.